going to call the special meeting of the Washington County Finance and Budget Committee to order. I have asked our Honorable Sheriff Tim Hilder to come and do the prayer and pledge this evening, if he'll still do us the honor. Push the little man on there, would you? The little on the microphone.
Is that the right one? All right, would you pray with me? Father, thank you, God, for today. And God, just always, I want to thank you for the opportunities to serve. God, I want to thank you for the members of this court. God, I want to lift up specifically the Washington County Sheriff's Office and all the 300 plus employees that they come to work every day trying to do your service. God, just pray your hedge of protection around them every day. God, I want to pray especially for Donnie Coleman right now as he's in recovery. And God, just pray your healing hand on him. God, again, just thanks for the blessings you give us. It's in Christ's name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff Hilder. All right, next item up is adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion to adopt the agenda by J.P. Duncan, second by J.P. Essery. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The agenda has been adopted. A couple of comments before we get into the new business this evening. As you can see, we've had some revisions that have rolled out to our budget books. Talking with interim comptroller Ms. Hinkle this evening, we have more of those that I'm going to try to get to the budget. I do my best every year to limit that, but unfortunately we hit a moving target every year just because of the ongoing business of the county. So I'll try to get those to you guys to look at. I'm going to work with Treasurer Hill. Doesn't look like he's here this evening, so I'll pick on him and voluntold him something that every year I want to give us a summary of the new spending that we have. We have a summary in the front of our books. I believe it's on page 12 there under the tab Budget Summary. A lot of new spending this year, so I want us all to be very familiar with that and make sure we get our questions answered, and especially these next two budgets, there's a lot of new spending. And the summary I'm going to work with Treasurer Hill on is how much of this new spending will affect the general fund and what is that effect, so we can try to get comfortable with it. That being said, we'll get straight to it this evening with the Sheriff's Budget Review. Sheriff Hilder, good evening.
It's one of my first of lasts in my 18 years as sheriff is to at least kick off the budget presentation for tonight. Sheriff-elect Cantrell will step up and maybe have a few words or at least be available to answer questions. We're going to allow our staff, our majors and captains to present their requests tonight. They've done a great job of putting together the budget with justifications and great reasoning as to why we have to do what we have to do. I would just, before we get too far into this, I want to thank the court, all the court that is here for helping us with our pay plan. I would like for you to know in open court that our dispatch center is fully staffed for the first time in 5 years. So the pay does make a difference. Our jail, detention, after being close to 60 in the 50s, at least mid-40s for most of the last 3 years, we are under 30 for the first time. And we're moving forward. And guys, we're getting great applicants. And thank you for believing in us and giving us an opportunity because it's working. So having said that, our budget tonight, of course, we have a lot of technological requests, we have other things, but we are not immune to the cost going up on a lot of different things, fuel, food, things of that nature. So please keep that in mind as we move forward. We're just not immune to those things. But I think you'll get some great information tonight. We will all be available to answer questions at any time. So I will turn it over to Jay. Do you want to come up? All right. So we want to present, which side of the house do you want to look at first, Chairman?
Let's start with the softballs here. I don't know that there's much to go over, but you got some smaller funds there, boating safety fund and things like that. If somebody wants to lead off with some of those, give us an appetizer before we get into the bigger
Let me
ones.
tell you what I'd like to do first. I'd like to have Major Yates come up and to kick this part of it off. Kenny, why don't you come up? And then, of course, Josh and Ty will be talking about the enforcement side. But this will be Kenny's final budget as well. Kenny will be retiring at the end of the month, and he's done a wonderful job for the sheriff's office, but I'd like for him to address the court.
Well,
Good evening.
let us start by saying thank you so much, sir, for all your service to Washington County. How many years at the department?
A little over 36 total in law enforcement.
Blink of an eye.
It
We-
went by quick.
Yep.
So we'll kick it off tonight. We're going to present the enforcement side of the house. We've got the small budgets to present, the boating safety, the communications budget, and the two drug funds, the state and the federal drug fund budgets. Since this is going to be my last budget presentation, I wanted to have Captain Augustine and Captain McConnell come up and help present this. They've both done a lot of work on it. And so we'll have Captain McConnell present the enforcement budget side of it, and then Captain Augustine is going to present all of our capital requests that we've got with the justifications, and then we'll all be available to answer questions when the time comes when y'all have any. But much like the sheriff said, just keep in mind, I know you're going to hear a lot of the same excuses tonight as to some of the reasoning anyway on increases, and it's just much like your own personal budgets. You know, everything's more expensive now. Cost of fuel, cost of groceries, and it affects your budget and our budget the same way. So just keep that in mind as we're presenting these things. But I'll have Josh and Ty come up and we'll get started.
Great, that sounds good. I think that's what you're going down, but let's do the enforcement side, and then we'll have a break for questions if we have them, and then we'll move into the jail detention side if that's okay. Yeah. Okay. If you guys will delineate what budget you're starting on so we can make sure and get on the same page, we'll try to keep up with you.
I'm hoping I'll be on the same page that y'all want on, so hopefully we'll start on the boating safety, which should be $259. So on the boating safety fund, this is a self-generated fund through taxes and stuff like that as far as your boat registration. On this, we do have a pretty good increase. There's some dive equipment stuff that we need to replace. So with this fund, we spend money on the dive equipment, dive boats, water rescue, stuff like that is what comes out of this fund. It's delegated just for that in itself. With that, we have 4 new divers on our team, which they're all different sizes. So our dry suits, our BCs, stuff like that, we'll have to get new BCs, new dry suits, stuff like that. I do have in the budget on the training side. So we do have one of our divers that's been diving, has been through a lot of classes on his own, and we'd like to send him on to a diver instructor class so they can instruct our new divers, so it would save us costs in the long run on that side. So that's going to be part of the training and education side. That's going to be the big increase on that, and getting the other divers through some of the basic rescue classes and swift water and stuff like that on that side. And that's pretty much the increases on that. If y'all have any questions.
Questions on the boating safety fund? I think we can continue.
I think the next one, I think, is 261. Is that correct? Should be the communication budget. A lot of the stuff, and I don't know, I'm pretty sure y'all have the methodology on the side, kind of how we came up with this stuff. And it should be the 261, 262, one of them 2 pages. We do have an increase on the computer equipment of $7,000. That's just going to be a 7% increase on the cost that we've noticed over this year. and increased on cost just to keep our computers and stuff like that swapped out with all the computers that we have. Everything else is pretty much flat year over year. We do have a 5% increase on the copier stuff, and then we have an overage charge that we have gotten this year, so we did put money in that line item so we don't have to switch it around. This is a budget also that is self-funded. So nothing comes out of the general fund on that side. Y'all have any questions on the communication budget?
JP Wilson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just curious about the $22,000 increase in software support and maintenance.
I'm sorry, you'll have to cue your microphone again. I got handsy and turned it on. There you go.
Am I good? Yes, sir. So we have 127 different computers on desktop computers, and we pull the money out of there to do the upgrades for Microsoft and stuff like that, Outlook and stuff like that out of there. And that also covers our ISOMs and stuff like that, the upgrades that we have coming up.
But it's 22,000 higher in '23 than it was in
It's
'22.
So it is the Southern software and stuff like that is about 13,000 a couple times a year. And then with our ISOMs, I think on that, that total was around 80. So we split that over the years to increase on that. So hopefully it won't be an ongoing cost on that end.
So, for example, next year it might be less, is that what you're saying?
No, next year, that's what it's budgeted at.
I'm
The
sorry.
year after, yes.
2024, it should be less.
Yes.
'23 is just exceptional
Yes.
because of, okay. Okay, thank you.
Additional questions on the communications budget? We're good.
Can you help me with the next page?
264, I showed as the drug enforcement, the federal
Okay.
fund.
So on the federal drug enforcement fund, that's a self-generated fund. It's pretty much stayed the same. I think the only issues that we had on it was, so we take money out of there for our honor guard. And we're wanting to put uniforms on them. That's about $6,000. So we had to add some money on that fund, on that side, on the expenses.
Questions on the federal drug enforcement fund? I want to make it clear to my colleagues, I'm not trying to rush anybody. If you need just a moment, then just let me know and we'll pause. I think we're good to move forward now, gentlemen. 266.
It's gonna be our state drug fund. It's actually got a slight reduction on that, and that kind of backs up to the federal side. I think on some of the dues, we moved some stuff over there, our canine tracking and stuff like that. We figured we could pull that out of the other fund instead of this one, because we haven't had as much money go back into the state fund as we did the federal.
We ready to move forward? Okay, we're good. Did you have something?
What page number y'all on? Okay, that's gonna be the jail. Can we go to 293?
Yeah, I agree, 293.
$293 is going to be the sheriff's office budget. On the personnel line items, on the full salary, we do have a year-over-year difference. Of course, that kind of go into the flex slots that we recreated, the 15 slots on the DFC to flex, and that also accounts for the step increases on that side, along with the communication side that was switched over, which was how many slots? I think 18 slots on the communication side was also in there on their raise. So the communication and the step has also received the raise. The only ones that haven't received a raise on that side that is not factored into that number will be the civilian hourly staff on the sheriff's office side. On the Social Security, we get the parameters set at the 7.65 matching based on the salary, overtime, holiday incentive, longevity stuff. So that's what that increase was based on, how we came up with that amount multiplied on them line items added together. Same on the retirement was the 15.2 or 15.35. That's the multiplier that increased on the personnel on that side. The holiday incentive is the same way on that side. That's based on the 112 employees that are eligible as essential personnel on the enforcement side, based on 12 holidays, 8-hour holiday. On the supply side, we've noticed a lot of our stuff on our supplies have increased. Not only the janitorial supplies, but even with our uniforms, our handcuff cases, I mean, everything's 30 cents up to $8 up. I think the highest increase that we've had on a single item through our Gulls distributor, which is one of our main distributors for law enforcement, is around $8. And that's a recent quote back in around April that I received to kind of get the budget lined out on our side on the small equipment and stuff on that side. And we've also noticed our ammo also comes out of general supplies, and we've noticed an increase of $10 a case on our ammo. We obviously got to shoot our qualifiers every year and give the proper training to our officers on that. So that's the big cost of that increase. The other one is our supplies is our ID cards. So our ID cards that gets made. Of course, we'll have, and you'll see on some of these justifications, we'll have a new sheriff at the first of the year. So we'll have to have new ID cards made, and we're looking at 300 and something employees that we got to do that on. So we have the cost of letterhead, just all that basic stuff that we got to change out when we have someone new come in. So a lot of that cost is based on that side. Small equipment, that goes into a little bit of that is the ID machine, but we've noticed we was actually glad to get our vehicles this year because we was able to get, I think, 9 vehicles. Of course, we wasn't budgeted to outfit them all, but at least we can get them so we can outfit them next year. But by doing that, we noticed there is probably a $4,000 increase on each vehicle just to equip that vehicle. And that's not counting our MVR or our computer that goes in the car. So that's just on the cages, that's on the back seat, that's on the lights. That's just on the basic stuff to outfit one of our vehicles. We've noticed a big increase on that side. And that all comes off of a state bid side, and we shop around, and I make sure the guys shop around to get the best price on that stuff. So on the small equipment, that is going to be the big increase on that side. Clothing and uniforms, same thing. I mean, you get someone new in, I mean, there's patches, stuff that you got to change out, and that's going to be the cost of getting all of our uniforms outfitted to have the new sheriff in there. Fuel, I attached a fuel analysis on this, so I mean, I can pretty much tell you, I can get pretty close to how many gallons we use a year, but I can't tell you the cost. And I'm sad to say I budgeted last year on this and I missed it. So, and I think a lot of people did miss the cost for this year on their gas. But I did budget the gas at a high of $4.50 on the gallon for next year. Hopefully it won't get that high and we don't have to worry about it. But as we all know, it got higher than that this year. Luckily, it's going back down. So there is a $97,000 increase, and that's based on our gallons that we use. So I get a report every month based on that, and I can come pretty close on an average on that side. So it's not just kind of throwing something up on the wall, trying to make it stick. So tires, we noticed the labor cost has went up on that, and also the product. Computer equipment, it's pretty close to the same. But like I said, on the ID, on the computer itself, it's got to come out of that line item. So that's going to be some of that increase on that side, varying the 3% increase, just the growth increase that we've seen over the last 2 quarters. Bulletproof vest, a big cost on that is our ERT vest. So we have 4 ERT members, 3 active members. We've got 4 slots that we can pull into our emergency response team. And their tactical vest and their helmets are 2 years expired. So they're 2 years over expired. So we're asking to replace them this following year, and they're about $4,000 a piece. So that's going to be the big increase on that. As far as our vest count, we try to do our vest count out. So even if you look at our budget today, I mean, we haven't used any of our money because usually they expire towards the end of the year, and that's usually when we get them in. So we know close to the end of next year, we'll have X amount of vests that expire, and that's what we got to replace. Given that we ain't putting new people in there and having to get them remeasured and stuff like that. So that's going to be that increase on that side. Parts and repairs, it's mainly just going to be on the parts side. I mean, we've just noticed an increase on parts. I mean, I had a AC unit go out on one of the vehicles, and you're looking at a couple $1,000s on the parts and the labor side on that. And I mean, we had a transmission that we've had an issue with, and stuff like that. So the parts is just it's going to be that cost that has shown to be a increase on that side. Lumber cost has went up, and that's just, we ain't doing nothing additional than what we did this year. So that's mainly to keep our range up to par when people hit our kickboard and stuff like that. We have different agencies that come in to do the qualifications, and we'll have to replace lumber because people hit the barricades and stuff like that, and that's why we train to try to get better on that side. If you jump over to, and if y'all have any questions, just stop me where I'm at, and I'll be more than happy to try to answer it. Or I'm going too fast. This is the first time I've had to do this, so. All right, if you go over to other service and charges, the professional services, it shows to be an increase, and that's based on the first and second quarter, or actually probably the first quarter that when we started putting this budget together, using a couple of last year's quarters on that, and the increase that we've shown on the labor cost and having the vehicles outfitted. So that's going to be the labor cost on just getting vehicles, the 8 vehicles that we had slotted for next year to get outfitted. Postage, we've got a small 3% increase. So a lot of our, and one of the things that we use a lot of that on is, so all of our lights and stuff are checking them under the lifetime warranty. So Streamlight and stuff like that does lifetime warranty, but we got to pay for shipping going back. So the older the light is, the more, I mean, we have to ship stuff back more frequently. So that's mainly on that. As far as what we usually, a lot of that of is going to be on the equipment cost of the shipping to get the warranty covered. On the 3252 on the fire, it's got a $3,100 increase, and that's based on the quarters that we're paying now. So this year we're going to be over $3,100. So it's a flat year over year. I don't see it increasing. I haven't had any word that it's increasing, but I think we mentioned it last year when we was talking about the fire coverage and insurance and all that, that we was going to be under. We're under. And we're going to be under about $3,100. So we're trying to scrape around and see if we can make that work by the end of the year. But I'm budgeting the full amount of the 5,500 for next year because that's what it's been this year and that's what we expected it to be. And I haven't had anything shown otherwise. Same thing on the fleet liability insurance. It's usually we see about a 3% increase, and that's just assuming a year-over-year growth of 3%. That's just been the year's past pattern on that side. So we did ask for a small increase on that. Dues and memberships, you'll see a pretty good increase of 8,500. So the big dues and membership on that is about $7,500. So as y'all are well aware, we do special events for the university and stuff like that, and they're going to a software program called Power Detail. With that, they have kind of talked us into doing it, but I've also talked them into I'm going to bill them for it. So that $7,500 will come back to us. So we're going to add that on the hourly rate to the university, so we get reimbursed on that when I come in and do the appropriation ordinances, how we split the retirement, stuff like that up. I'll ask for that money back into the dues and membership, so that money will be sent back. Or I could just not even ask for it, and it'll stay in the general fund, whatever's easiest on that side. And that's probably what I'll end up doing, is just not ask for it, just keep it in general fund, because that's where it's going to go anyway. So the big cost on that is going to be that Power Details program, and it really helps out on the football games. So we have about 60 to 70 people working the university during a football game, and we got 3 coming up in September, starting next week. So it's something that we can do push notifications instead of sending emails or printing off papers and stuff like that to all these officers. They'll be able to pull it up on their smart device, look at it, and be able to say, okay, that's where I go. Or even the common questions that we get asked out there working traffic of saying, hey, where's this parking and this parking at? They can pull that up and get that information immediately and kind of help the experience of the football games and the people that's wandering the university better experience on that side. So I'm hoping that it'll work pretty good, and I'm real anxious to try that out, especially considering they're going to reimburse us. That's all I have as far as that side. Captain Augustine's going to speak on the capital outlay. If y'all got any questions on the above items, I'll be more than happy to try to clarify something or make it more difficult to understand.
Okay, I will go over. I'll go over our capital requests. The first one I have is technically not a capital expense, but we were asked to put it under capital.
The justification letter will be on 304, page 304. So it's in this same budget, he's just going over the high dollar stuff now.
So this first one is for a early intervention or early warning system tracking software. It is technically not a capital expense, but we were asked to put it into this line item. It would be under software, computer, machinery, equipment line item. An early intervention or early warning system is a software system that you input a bunch of information about your employees into, and it can generate flags when you have a negative behavior or positive behavior from an employee. For instance, if you have an employee that starts to use sick time a lot and starts generating complaints and things like that, while we might generally look at that as a poorly performing employee, this system can help you generate a flag before it becomes a problem that they have to be terminated, and help us save our employees. So what it would do is you assign point values to different behaviors, tardiness or sick time, motor vehicle accidents, uses of force. There's a whole host of things. And then when they reach a certain threshold, it will alert the supervisor in the up chain of that employee that there could be a problem there. And then you can go back through and see why they're performing poorly. Are they just having problems, or are we seeing something that they're dealing with, either home stress or work stress, illnesses? There's many things. And if we can save those employees, I think you would agree our employees are our most valuable asset. And it costs us a fortune to train one. So if we could have something that would help us to recognize this stuff before it becomes such a problem that we have to terminate them, I think we'd be far ahead. It also works on the other side in positive behavior. It helps us recognize positive behavior, and we can all do better at recognizing our employees when they do well and acknowledging that to them, and it would help us to see those positive behaviors as well. This is a yearly cost for this. The startup cost is $11,694. That is just the startup cost. The ongoing cost is expected to be about $10,194, which works out to $33.98 per employee, and that's based on 300 employees. And it can be expected to increase year over year by about 3%. That cost could easily be made up in not losing an employee that in the first year that we have trained. It's very expensive to train somebody and outfit them and then lose them in the first year for either behavior problems or because they weren't recognized for the good job that they were doing or whatever, a host of reasons. That cost could easily be made up just in one employee. Any questions?
JP Washington?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just want to be sure that I understand, how do you get this information? So is it self-reported by the employees?
It's reported by supervisors, but it can also be reported by other people. Let me give you just an example. Someone calls into the front desk and says, hey, a deputy so-and-so stopped out and changed my tire on the side of the road, and I just wanted to say he did a great job, he's very professional, and just wants to give a commendation. The girls at the front desk could actually enter that into the record for that. Now, negative things would be entered by a supervisor, like if they were tardy or if they used sick time or if they were in a motor vehicle accident or uses of force. And use of force aren't necessarily negative, but if you have somebody that is using force more often than others, we need to recognize that. And one of the problems that we have right now is if we have an employee that moves from division to division because they like it, they start out in detention and they want to try community service, and then they think, well, I want to go to patrol. Well, some of their behaviors may not follow them. Some of their past behaviors may not follow them because there's these fragmented files. Each supervisor has some files about where they had to go and have a verbal counseling with someone, and it may not follow them along. So that's fragmented. And then when they get to the last place that they work, and that supervisor doesn't know about some past behaviors, they may just see a poorly performing individual or may not recognize things that have been a problem for a long time, and so that helps with that. But yes, it's reported, most of this reported by supervisors.
Okay, that
and
makes
input in the
sense.
system.
So I guess specifically, some of the things that were listed here were like health issues or relationship issues. So for those things that are not readily observable, then how are those things reported? Like, how do you get information that someone is going through a divorce or someone got a cancer diagnosis if they don't share that with their supervisor?
Sure. You don't input personal stuff into that necessarily. You input stuff that has to do with work. But when it generates a flag, that's when you start looking to see, do we need to get with them and refer them to our peer counselors? Maybe we need to talk to them and see what's going on, if they have an issue going on at home. They don't have to tell us about it, but they can say, yeah, I'm dealing with something. Then we might be able to get them some help before it really becomes a problem, when maybe they wouldn't have before.
Thank you.
Other questions on the early intervention system? Okay.
Okay, the next is computer machinery equipment line item. This is for mobile video recorders for our dash cams. Currently, we have several dash cams that will be reaching their end of life or their end of support in 2023. And they are with a different system than what our body cameras are on. As you know, that we went with a body camera recently, and it is working out very well for us. As we start to replace these MVRs, the mobile video recorders, we would like to be able to merge them into the same system as our body-worn cameras so that all of our data is kept and in the same place so that we can, it really helps with our workflow. Right now, our deputies are going to have to go in and make cases in their MVRs in one system and then go back into the body camera and do the same thing in another system for incidents recorded, for recorded incidents same incident, 2 different cameras, 2 different systems, they have to go and input information. This would put all that information in the same system and, help with their workflow. It also integrates with our body cameras so that the body camera itself would work as the body microphone. Currently, they wear a body microphone for their dash cam and the body camera. So they've got 2 pieces of equipment hanging to record audio, and one of them records video. With this system, the body camera would act as the mic for the MVR system as well. We're proposing to outfit 15 cars in 2023. That's what this is for, 15 units. We are also actively seeking grants. We have been working with the grants administrator for 20 other units on a grant that I think next week is the deadline for applying for it. So Sharon Lloyd's been working on that for us. So we're looking at other means to fund this as well. But we have I think 57 cameras on patrol that we're going to have to change out, and I think 80 as a total for the whole sheriff's office, because there's some on the detention side. So we don't want to take that big a bite at once. It's almost $1 million. So what we're proposing is to do a few every year and get those rolled over that way while we continue to look for grant funding opportunities. The last one I have is also in the computer machinery equipment line item. It is for 20 additional body-worn cameras. They have been so effective, and we've been so happy with them. We have not outfitted, at this point, we have not outfitted our court security. The 2 sergeants that work up here do have body cameras, but all the other court officers do not. And we're proposing to get 20 more cameras so that they will be outfitted with them as well.
Questions for Captain Augustine? J.P. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to make sure I'm understanding that we're not requesting any new cars in 2024, 23, sorry, 23.
No, I think that y'all already gave us that money for 2023. We ordered them
You
this
bought
year.
them in 22. We're going to equip them in 23.
That's
Is that
correct.
correct? Okay. Thank you.
We appreciate you, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Thank you. Major Yates, thank you again for your 36 years of service.
He'll be back.
All right, are we about ready for the jail detention side? If I'm not mistaken, I think we're going to page 268 to start out. You gentlemen correct me if I'm wrong.
Want to start out with the maintenance.
Yes, sir.
Should be on 271. Is that what you all have, or you have it different?
I had 268,
Okay.
but I think we're talking about the same one.
Okay. You're going to kind of hit the highlights on some of these, and then we can talk about any others you like. The small equipment is up 63%. It's basically using on all of our tools and batteries and everything that we buy. It's kind of like what you've heard right in the past, the price of everything. Like a DeWalt battery used to be $39 or $40, and now they're almost $200. But and you're going to hear some more of this as the jail's getting older. With their 18 years, it's the wear and tear is really starting to show up. On the jail or anywhere, I guess that you have 24-hour service. You can about multiply that 18 hours, how about 18 years times 5, just like you're trying to staff it. So how many, it never gets a day off. You get a piece of equipment, and when it started, it's never shut down, never turned off, and runs full-time until we, till it actually breaks and we have to maintain it. Fuel, we doubled our fuel. We actually didn't know exactly what we was going to get into this year, a little bit in next year, and also when you talk about the fuel, that's also oil changes and filters and everything. So there's more to that than just fuel on all of our other stuff. And then the plumbing and electric with the increases, it was up about 50%. So I'm trying to keep up here. With the increases that we've seen, what they've revised our maintenance, the kind of price is going up, so that's why we increased that 15,000. And then the utilities wasn't as bad this year as last year, but they're still going up, and so it went up 5% to make sure we can try to get through the year. Any questions so far? Okay, then moving on down to the end of maintenance is the capital projects. We understand that they was all put together, and that was what we was told to do it. So the first one is it's about the detention, but maintenance is one, and our IT is going to make it happen. But the camera system, has been there since we opened, and it's not being supported anymore, and we're going to have new cameras. They run the whole place. The cameras watches everybody, everything, our tracking, our movement, wherever we're going to go in the facility. So they are really critical. We've added cameras 2 or 3 different times to have enough to make the place safe and secure. So to do that is going to be $350,000, and then to roll on over into the retention video, as far as recording, keeping up with everything that the cameras see. We've been to federal court more than once, and I think the last time we went, if we had an incident and it falls off the camera after 90 days, as it does now, that we was unaware of, the magistrate got very precise about saying that there will be sanctions to the sheriff if you don't keep these all these events that happen. Well, a lot of events we don't even know about, because you couldn't see it. But long story short is this new system will keep it for 3.5 years. So instead of us, we have 3 people full-time going through stuff, trying to download all these events that's happened. With this new system, it'll be there. We can go back and pick it out when we need something. If we get a federal lawsuit filed against us, go back to that date and we'll have all this stuff. So it's $250,000. So for that, which is kind of run hand in hand. But they also wanted $150,000 to put this in, which that makes $750,000, which easy to figure. But our IT and our maintenance will have to be here and be here standing beside these people, and they have installed all of our other stuff. So we can save $150,000 on this whole project. So if you just called up and ordered it and say, I need this, it'd be $750,000. But at this point here, it'll be $600,000. So that'll get us back up to speed and to be able to keep up with everything and actually record. Some of the cameras are been there since we've opened since '05.
I have a quick question about that. You notate in your justification there that 2 deputies right now spend a lot of their service time going over some of this. Will that bring some efficiency from that standpoint? Will that be able to free some of their time up?
Yes, we have 2 of them and 1 investigator. That's what they have to do. After we've been to federal court and was advised what was going to happen next, we start downloading and trying to keep it. So yes, that'll free them up to help in the back and be able to go back to any case we need to. You know, they get 3 years to get to sue us.
Questions? J.P. Johnson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got some questions on that other services and charges. Line item 3052. I think I questioned that same line item a year ago. And are we comfortable that we know what that number really is?
This is what we've been told. So,
Who's telling you?
come from the courthouse. Comptroller's office advises this.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's a big difference there.
I'll check.
Okay.
The, the next question, and I've asked this one 3 years in a row too, is on the replacing the air conditioning equipment. Do you know what you spent or are going to spend this year?
The notes right here. Yeah, we started on a plan 3 years ago, and, we replaced about 5 units a year. This year, we're still planning on doing 5, but with the cost is, we was put 100,000 back to try to do 5 units, kind of average, and now we're up to almost 150,000 to do the same thing, just on the price of the air conditioner itself, the labor that comes in, and to actually get it installed. But still, we're out no other costs, and we're still on our average doing 5 a year.
Thank you. One more. Line item 3009. That's a great big line item in a budget where we got $1,500 items, and I don't have a clue what we buy with other professional services money.
This is anything to do with labor. You even get down to an oil change where we have to pay for the oil, and then the person that's doing it, the labor has to come out of this line item. So when you put an air conditioner in, or you bring somebody in to fix anything, you have to pay for the part. But all of the labor, any labor cost at all, comes out of this pool here, other professional services.
Any labor outside of county employees?
Yes, sir.
We ready for the operations side? Think so. $274. I'm sorry, $274.
Yes. You ready? Okay. Excuse me, I'm sorry. One of our biggest increases is general supplies. And kind of like you heard before, we increased it 20,000. A little bit of everything comes out of that. One of our biggest thing is gloves. Gloves used to be $39 a case, and at the last price through COVID, at its highest peak, they was $175 a case. Now they've come back down, but also the cost of taser cartridges, and like the other captain said, the ammunition targets, but a little bit of everything comes out of that line item. You got hand cleaner, antifreeze, brake cleaner, copier paper, foam cups, spoons. So that is the biggest circle probably of everything. And you don't think much about spoons, but I think they're a penny a piece, and they double. And we use about 3,000 a day every day from now on, kind of like toilet paper. So that's one reason that this was increased to try to cover the cost. It just seems like it, every month we almost get an increase. Next one is clothes and uniforms. that we increased that about 20%. Kind of like I said, the price of everything else that is used, how high everything is. And then also, this is for the detainees and officers on our side. So, you know, as you've probably seen, the last couple of weeks, we've been over 800 folks. You know, this, I don't understand, you know, say good police work, but every time you got to feed them and take care of them, you know, all the hygiene products and everything else. And then to roll right over into that is detainee supplies, is like the, one thing that's really increased is the mattresses. We used to buy mattresses for $39, $49 a piece, and now they're $79. So you figure that $79 a piece for everybody that's in there, and we've got 150 sleeping on the floor with 2 mattresses. So, you know, that's 300. Anyway, it's that was one of our biggest problems. I say our biggest cost. But, you know, the other stuff, the towels and everything else that goes along with that is the increase on that. And then our next is our medical. The increase at 10% to for all the, you know, everything that they have done for us. The malpractice keeps increasing. You know, the staff we have to have, you know, when they first come in, you know, we had, you know, 600 or 700 people. And now we're, like I say, now we're pushing 800. So that's a part of that. And then our last big one, and that's really is kind of surprising, and that's the food. There's only a 4% increase right now. But the way someone's buying their food and the quantity they can buy. So that's what that's where we're at on that. So entertain any other questions about any of the line items.
JP Essery.
Thank you very much. In looking at your fuel, I just wonder if that's enough. I hate to say that, but, you know, most people have been going up basically double, and that's only like 20 or 30%. And
Right.
Do you think
Well,
that would be enough?
in the past, I say we've been really fortunate, but the other side, that may not be enough, but we was gonna try that.
Okay, thank you.
JP Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have a question about the medical hospital. And in the justification, it has increased 10% due to vendors' fees. So is it that the medical provider is asking for a 10% increase? Can you just
Yes.
give a little more? So do they itemize what's included in the 10% increase?
Well, part of it is staffing, you know, the vendor fees that they have to pay, just like anything, you know, they have sent out to the hospitals. But I think the malpractice is a really big part of that, you know, legal fees and, you know, everything they did when they went through COVID for us. I mean, it was amazing how they took care of everybody. And like I say, just like these gloves, you know, you don't think much about it till, you know, you've got 400 of them in there. That's positive. How many pairs of gloves you use in a year's time? That's a small deal, but that's a big price. You know, they had mentioned that down they had legal fees and everything that they had to do their job last year.
Okay. So, yeah, I read all of that there. I just was asking if there was an itemization. That's all. So they just said a blanket, okay, we think 10% will cover what we need, or?
We can get an itemized list. No, I don't have one.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind. And also, in your, how much would you estimate that the county has spent on malpractice insurance?
But I have to
What
ask
was
them.
the
I mean,
increase?
it's theirs. I mean, their
Okay.
malpractice that keeps going up. That's how we lost our last doctors before we started all this. You know, we had a doctor and 2 nurses or 3, and their malpractice every time they go to federal court, where they won, lost, or even went. And we lost the last 2 doctors prior to all this because of the malpractice. What they told us that anytime that you're going to go to federal court, they couldn't.
Or even
they
if you
couldn't afford
don't go, just malpractice insurance is rising.
Yes.
As someone who carries malpractice insurance, like what I pay now is astronomically more than what I did at the beginning of my career. So I just wanted to know what was that number.
Okay.
If you could just give us an idea of how much malpractice insurance
Okay, we'll
is
get
for the
that to you.
county. And that's all I have.
We're all ready for the-
I think we're ready to move forward with the
Okay.
capital expenditures and
Well,
additions.
that's, part of our capital or for personnel?
Start with the personnel,
Okay.
or whatever's convenient.
We are, our transport department, I can't think tonight. Now, a lot of people don't understand, or they know, or they forget what our transport department, can't talk either tonight, what they do, but they start out, besides taking people, they transport prisoners basically everywhere, but it starts out with the court, and, they do all the arraignments, and this Zoom, and the regular transportation is growing. Everybody's kind of getting back into sync, needing transport to do something. If anything happens, transport has to move them. So just like when the penitentiary calls, the Arkansas Department of Corrections, should say, they want 25, that's fine. Then the next person calls, say, okay, we had these people got to go to court, and with the new judgeship and some of the other stuff, we're having to take to court, plus we're in the back doing Zoom, trying to get all this court stuff done. Well, I say all that to say that the sergeant jumps in and does whatever. They don't just sit there. So we're at a point to where the court's calling, and, we have hold of federal prisoners. That's a whole nother ballgame we deal with. We really need another sergeant to have somebody there to answer the phone and make decisions the whole time. And these sergeants get called at night, and they get called on weekends sometimes. I mean, they work Monday through Friday, but we're about to work one sergeant plumb down to where they can't keep up. Now, you've read some of this at what they've done, but like I say, there's 19 folks in there, and to try to manage that many, but they're going every direction. Our last month when I was telling you about the out of states, with the COVID wasn't bad, but which we'll bring up again here in a minute. But we done been to Florida twice, Maine, New York, Colorado, and California, and Houston, and Texas here in the last 6 weeks. I mean, I don't understand, like I was telling you, I don't know how they get that far before they get caught. Why can't they get caught here in Washington County or Arkansas even? So, the expense of that and the miles, but you gotta have somebody working on paperwork all the time, getting governor's warrants, all the way down to making sure the last person gets to court. And then we're kind of having a little bit of a time after COVID, everybody getting back in sync, needing these prisoners. We got, 8 different courts, and they'll call and say, I need one tomorrow, or I need one in 10 minutes. Well, you gotta have somebody to coordinate that. So that is our biggest need for having another sergeant. All right, and moving right on down to what Captain Augustine was talking about, our MVRs and our cars they're over 7 years old. I believe some's older than that, but they're out of date, and they're not supported. And they was a more of a cheaper version at the time when we put these in, and we want to, like I said, we want to be the same, but what patrol's getting really tracks everybody, keeps up with everything, got good cameras, because usually everywhere we go, we got a prisoner. So it's not like we're running empty much. I mean, sometimes going and getting them, but we need to be able to document anything that happens, any allegation, or whatever goes on, that we can go back and find it, because the federal courts already told us, if it's not wrote down or you don't have a video, then it didn't happen. So when they make an allegation or whatever goes on, and this helps our officers too. This tracks their speed and everything. moving right on. Our next capital expense is the body worn cameras. Like you'd heard from the other captains that how well they work. Everybody is tickled to death with them. As far as it's amazing the picture they take when you get ready to look at something going on. But anyway, long story short, we want to get them for the rest of our transport doesn't have them, and our community service don't have them. We have them in the jail, and this will complete our program to where we'll have everybody will have them. And then last is talking about our vans. You know, our cars, we usually run everybody to court here and long trips. But the vans, when they call, they usually always call for 22 or 25 detainees to take to the Arkansas Department of Corrections, wherever. Well, the two vans we got have over 100,000 on them, and they have this here says mid-roof inserts, but they're a cage that inserts that goes in them. And when we first got them, they're a little bit loud and rattle, but they don't support these anymore. But the biggest thing about putting the cages in the van, two things, is the first thing, it's divided up into different sections where you can put a female, male, juvenile. You can section everybody off where nobody can hurt each other. So, you know, if we need to haul 15, we can put 2 here, 5 or 6 here, and 5 or 6 over there, whatever. So it's you don't have to just make one trip. But one of the biggest things we found out, and not that we wanted to, the first set of these we went down to the Arkansas Department of Corrections to come back with a prisoner. We got about 200 miles, I think, out of Texarkana, and this white SUV for some reason turned right in front of us across the interstate. I say us, I wasn't there as transport. Anyway, hit the car. If we hadn't had that van cell in there, it would have killed all of them, because it's like a big roll cage besides, a cage putting in, but it's roll bars all the way down the side. It hit that car and it just rolled down the side of the van. And, the officer he was scratched up a little, but it totaled the Tahoe. One of them freak deals. It was a straight road, but anyway, long story short, I mean, just for safety, how well these things have performed down through the years. But that's just one story. So we'll order like I say, both these vans have over 100,000 on them, and they're 14 models. So we feel like it's time to replace them, and these new inserts are even supposed to be better and stronger.
Questions on the capital outlays? J.P. Washington.
I'm sorry, mine is not on capital outlays, but it was a question I forgot to ask about the medical. Are there any future plans to open up the medical contracts for bidding to see if there could be any potential cost savings to the county?
Well, at this point, like I say, the new sheriff may have a different idea, but the excellent job they're doing, and as well as they help us, I don't think there is, but they might be.
J.P. Esri.
Thank you very much. I just have a question on the body worn cameras. I would assume that we're also looking at, that there are probably grants out there, I would think. I'm sure we're investigating that as well.
They're working on a grant now. We can ask and see if there's any more. I think at the time there wasn't, but we will double check.
Does that bring us to the end?
Sir?
I said, does that bring us to the end?
Yes. Well, I don't know if it come down or not, but our work release program, where we go out and pick up trash and everything we do, it earns everything that it makes, and it's flat. We didn't ask for anything else. It's whatever it makes what we work with.
J.P. Esri.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank y'all very much for having this prepared, so as we spent time going through it, all the answers are right here. And that's why there weren't a lot of questions here, because y'all did a great job of preparing. And we appreciate that very much. Thank you for doing that.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.
I'll echo that. There's a lot of detail in those letters, and there's a lot of detail when you guys go through each of those accounts. I know there's a lot of labor involved in that, but we appreciate it on our end just to keep our heads wrapped around it. So with that, the sheriff's budget is submitted. Last item on the agenda is public comment period. We have a 12-minute public comment period limited to 3 minutes per person. Any public comments this evening?
Hello, my name is Beth Koger. I live at 3661 Embry Drive, Fayetteville. I'd just like to follow up on what J.P. Washington mentioned about the medical contract. We had this discussion last year, and we asked that it be bid, and we were told that there wasn't time. So this is now August. I would think there'd be plenty of time for that to be bid. The medical contract that we have right now was bid one time. It was bid in 2015. There's been no competitive bidding since that time. When we don't have competitive bidding, we're creating a situation where the county may not be getting a fair value price for the product or service that we're receiving, as in this medical dental contract. Are we getting a good deal on the medical contract? How do we know? Dr. Karras is required to carry $1 million per occurrence and $3 million aggregate for the medical malpractice insurance. But our contract also calls for the taxpayers of Washington County, at our sole expense and cost to keep and maintain insurance coverage for any claim brought by any person against Karras and his employees and agents. And we agreed to indemnify and hold him harmless for all covered claims, including attorney's fees and cost. And those obligations survive the agreement. That sounds like a great deal for Dr. Karras, but I'm not sure it's a great deal for us taxpayers of Washington County. The contract for 2022 is $1,374,000, and that's broken down to $1.199 million for compensation for Dr. Karras and $175,000 payable at $14,583.33 per month for a facility expense advance. I'm not sure what that is, but it may be something like J.P. Washington was asking for an itemization on. Also, under the contract, that's supposed to be furnished, an accounting of that is supposed to be furnished quarterly. In procuring goods and services, we should favor competitive bidding processes to protect public value. Competitive bidding between firms drives lower prices, higher quality, and increased innovation. I know in my personal budget, I do competitive bidding for my homeowner's insurance and for my car insurance at least every 2 years. And I can usually get a better deal by shopping around. So I don't understand why we can't shop around on this contract and have competitive bidding. There's plenty of time to get it done for next year. And also, as to Dr. Karras's work at the jail, my nonprofit, Arkansas Justice Reform Coalition, we hear from people at the jail frequently, and not everybody is as happy with Dr. Karras's contract as some people are. Thank you.
Public comments.
Hi, Sarah Moore of Fayetteville, Arkansas. I hope that as we're looking at this tremendous budget, which represents a large chunk of the money that taxpayers pay, that we're really challenging the expenses that have been ongoing at the jail. Right now, we're faced with looking at a ballot initiative for the expansion of the jail, which may or may not pass. Regardless of what the future is in the next several years, there are current conditions today within the facility that with the budget I heard tonight, I don't seem to hear addressed. We are hearing from those detained inside the facility that there are ongoing issues with leaking toilets, that there's mold in the facility. When they're in a segregation cell, oftentimes there's leakage and there is overflow of the toilets into the segregation cell with very little ability to get away from that. It would be nice to know, as we're looking at replacing ACs and doing improvements in the interim, that we're also looking at quality of life and other ways that we can help the population. The hope is with pretrial services and other means we can reduce overcrowding, but for those folks that are in the facility, we should be able to improve the conditions they're faced with. And these are directly from folks that have been talking to us. In regard to the medical contract, I echo, and I've had this conversation with many of you, we've been doing this for quite some time. None of you would run your business and continue forward with a contract on and on again. When the costs do escalate on it, you would competitively bid it, you would reassess because you would be worried about your pocketbook and your budget. And so we should be concerned in the county in regard to the medical contract as the costs have escalated. And it's been a number of years, 5 or 6 at this time, that we haven't bid that. And so the people do deserve that we look at that contract. I will tell you, and I'll read directly from the words of someone incarcerated today. They write to us asking, a 51-year-old person with medical needs is being neglected. Before being sentenced to the jail, he suffered from a severe stroke. For the last couple of weeks, his right hand has been swollen up and causing him pain. The COs just informed him to put it on the kiosk, but yet nothing has been done to fix this medical issue. Number 2, the jail is very overpopulated. These cells are made for 3 to 4 people max. We currently have almost 8 people in this cell. The jail doesn't seem to care when we inform them that we have to be 6 inches off the ground. We've made grievances in regard to this to no avail. They inform us it's a privilege, and if we press the matter, we get threatened with going to ADSEG. Some people are actually sleeping under leaking toilets as well. That talks to what I spoke to earlier, because the toilets are leaking. A 22-year-old...
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Your time's expired.
Okay. Could I
Any
please
other public
ask if I
comments?
could have an extension, because this is from the jail?
That's for the pleasure of the court. Any other public comments? J.P. Washington?
I move that we extend, excuse me, the public comments by 2 additional minutes to allow Ms. Moore to continue her comments.
I have a motion to extend public comments from Ms. Moore by 2 minutes. Do I have a second? I have a second by J.P. Usry. All those in favor? Those opposed? Continue.
Thank you. The 22-year-old gentleman who's never been convicted of a crime was on ADSEG for no apparent reason. He filed multiple grievances on that as well. Due to the Washington County's jail handbook, you're supposed to be reevaluated every 7 days. He was in for more than 30-plus days, as well as being isolated. He went a week without soap and informed the guards every day, but nothing happened. He is indigent. He would like to receive a message from you. Oh, sorry, he wants to talk to me. Again, on another issue, there's currently a cell that has 5 people on segregation, and the AC is currently not working. Again, multiple grievances have been made, but it seems as if we don't get basic human rights since we are in jail. And so this is just a small, very small example of what we've been getting over the last couple of years. And so the only thing I know to do is to maybe continue to bring these forward and read these to you, because these are real human beings. You know, these are people in community with us, and many of them are accused. They're not convicted of a crime. And so as we make plans and we move forward with our 23 budget, I would hope that we would look at their humanity and think about whether or not we can't go ahead and budget some monies that can improve the conditions that they're in, that we don't have leaking toilets, that we fix the ACs that are, and it sounds like we were looking at replacing some of those units, so maybe that speaks to that. But I hope we'll consider to improve conditions when people are detained, because they are our community members, and ultimately they do come back out in the community with us. Thank you.
Public comments.